Welcome back and happy Mother's Day to everybody. Hope everyone's having a wonderful weekend. Have a quick video for you today. It's actually going to be a story about my mom. I don't normally talk about my mom and how it relates to card collecting. But quickly, I actually went to the White Sox game last night. That's why you see all these lovely Sox players in front of you. Dylan Cease was pitching last night, so I got his autograph over there. Tim Anderson had a couple hits. Luis Robert drove in two of the three runs for the White Sox last night, including a home run, and he scored, I think, the third run for them. Jose Abreu is back in town with the Houston Astros. He's struggling quite a bit down there in Houston, which was to our benefit last night, but I do wish him the best kind of going forward. We had a great time at the game. Actually, what you see over here on my stage left, if you will, is actually the giveaway that we had at the game. It actually was a Eloy Jimenez bobblehead. For those of you who aren't familiar with this, every time he hits a home run, he looks at the camera and says, "Hi, Mom." So this is actually you can see it says, "Hi, Mom" on here, but it's actually a talking bobblehead. So it actually does a couple different things, as I found out when I turned it on this morning.
Hi, Mom.
There's that one.
Hola, guys.
There it is in Spanish.
Hi, Mom.
There's another one.
Hi, Mom.
There's another one.
Hi, Mom.
That's my favorite one, where he's actually pretty loud. So it's definitely one of my more entertaining bobbleheads at this point, is we have an Eloy Jimenez that's talking at this point. Perfect for Mother's Day, so it was kind of like a Mother's Day promotion, if you will, or at least the day before Mother's Day. At the game, it was a lot of fun. I actually picked up a Tim Anderson USA t-shirt, so I threw him out there for that reason as well. And then I also was able to get on clearance a Jose Abreu White Sox jersey, which is cool because he's my favorite player from the last 10 years or so on the White Sox. So I was happy to be able to pick up a jersey that was pretty discounted because he's obviously no longer with the team. So my story actually involves this card in front of you. It actually involves a former White Sox player. This is Bo Jackson's first football card. First Topps football card in a Raiders uniform. There was a classic card that was part of the baseball set. I'm going to tilt the camera down a little bit more so you can capture it a little bit better. I believe from the year before, I believe 87 or 86. I had that card for a while, but mine are all beat up because I actually used them with the game. But anyway, this involves this card here. This is his 88 Topps football card. It was a big chase card back in the day because he was obviously a two-sport all-star at that point, and we just thought his talent was endless at the time before he got injured. And it became recently a chase card again during the pandemic. People were trying to open up old boxes of Topps cards to be able to try and pull this card. And actually, this is from doing that. My friend Robbie and I opened up a box and found this card. It's actually in really good shape, but there are some little wax stains and stuff on there, which sometimes you see for cards that have been in the wax packs for years. The back is fine, but it's just little dots from the wax in some way, shape, or form. But anyway, so the Bo Jackson card, let me tell you the story. So my mother was always pretty supportive of me collecting cards and me being involved with sports. She was a huge advocate, would always come to every sport thing that I did, and well into my adulthood, including the marathons I've run. She would always show up and want to cheer her son on. She was super supportive. As far as it relates to my card collecting, she was always like, make sure you take really good care of them because you never know if it's going to be worth something at some point in the future. This story actually involves us going to the only time my mom took me to a card show. All the other trips I had done were with my dad, or I was with a friend and his parents as we went to the show. This was one that we went to shortly before the Christmas holiday, and I don't remember what year this was, so it probably would have been probably 89, I think, because I don't think I got this card during 88 when it came out, so probably around 89, so I've been about 12 years old when this occurred, and it was probably early December. They used to have card shows at a local bowling alley where I lived that's no longer there. It got torn down. I think it's a card dealership now. But this Bo Jackson card I picked up at this show, and I said, hey, Mom, what if we actually pulled a prank on my dad on Christmas? So at that time, obviously, being 12, I obviously didn't believe in Santa Claus anymore, but I had a younger sibling that still did, so we still kind of did a lot of Santa-related things, including having stockings over our fireplace that were, quote-unquote, filled by Santa and his elves the day before Christmas. So I told Mom, hey, why don't you stick this in my stocking and we'll surprise Dad and say that it actually was Santa that did it. So this is like, a 12-year-old thinking that's like super clever, being able to pull a little joke like that. So she played along with it and actually put it in the stocking. So on Christmas morning, I pulled it out and I was like pretended to be like super surprised. Like, how did Santa know? Even though I knew it was in there and I already purchased it. And my dad would just kind of like look at me and my mom kind of quizzically like, okay, so you put this in here? Like, when did you guys get this card? And so, I mean, he figured it out pretty quickly, but it was a lot of fun, just kind of playing along with my mom and doing it. So that memory's really kind of stuck to me this day. I know my mom would always like sponsor purchases that my dad would do for me and things like that. So she definitely was aware of my collecting. But that was like a fun memory of something I did just with my mom that involved card collecting. I mean, it's other things that obviously she would sometimes buy me packs of cards when we would be at the grocery store because they used to have them up by the register back in the late 80s, early 90s, if you can remember. Just tons and tons and tons of cards at that time during the height of that era of overproduction. So she was always like willing to do things like that. But this one was a very different memory as we kind of also involved playing a little prank on my dad at that time as well. She's been gone actually for about 3 years now. She passed away at the beginning of 2020. So it's always fun when I can take a moment to actually think of something that involved me and my mom, because, obviously I'm one of 3 kids in my family, so there's not a lot of memories of just my mom and I doing things. There was always a sibling along when we'd be doing things just because of the nature of having 3 kids so close in ages together. So, but that's it. I hope everybody has a wonderful Mother's Day, and I hope to see you guys pretty soon. And finally, one last time.
Hola, guys.
All right, take care, everybody.